Hello, everyone. I'm Steve from Valhartv, and today I'll be reviewing House of the Dragon, Episode 5. So, we finally meet Lady Rhea Royce, Damien's wife, and she's was out on a hunt, and she was trying to hunt like some pheasants, it looked like, and then she was going after a deer. But when she goes to go home, Damien's there waiting for her. And I thought this was actually a really good scene because we see that Damien's just there. He walks up and I don't think he planned anything, but he took advantage of the fact that she fell off her horse and it crushed her. And when she taunted him about not finishing, well, we get to see on later on what happened. Well, we don't see it, but we get told. So I thought that was very interesting because, again, Matt Smith is probably the best actor in this in the series, which is phenomenal. Everybody else has been actually doing way better too. Really like that fact. But then we cut to King Viserys going to Driftwood because he's there to ask for their son's hand in marriage to his daughter. So I thought that was actually very interesting because he's not well. You can see that straight out. He is not well at all. It's seasickness, I mean, for one, but he's not well at all. You can tell he's getting worse, especially from the very first episode that we meet him. And we see that the sea snake is pushing his claim. You know, he's like, well, since you're here, I want this. And the king is like, okay, I'll give you this, but this is going to happen when your kids ascend to the throne. They're going to be Targaryens. They're not going to be Velaryons. You know, so they're, so that dynamic of pushing back and forth, even Corlys says, did I go too far? Push him to almost not wanting this and stuff. But, he's not well, so he has to do what he has to do. Which I thought was extremely interesting because we're seeing that he is literally making decisions based off of, I feel like it's based off of his health. Like, he's not going to last much longer, so he needs to do this stuff to secure Rhaenyra's claim to the throne. And then we get Otto Hightower. As he's leaving, he's talking to his daughter, and he basically is warning her. He's like, there is never going to be a woman sitting on the throne. It's going to be a man, so you need to get your kid ready in order to rule. Period, end of story, because if not, everything that I've tried to work towards is going to be ruined, basically. And that's how I got the impression of it. But he's also telling her that, Rhaenyra is going to have to put her kids to the sword. She's going to have to do what she's got to do to keep claim on the throne and everything. So this is extremely interesting that we're seeing all these different things play out now. And the fact that we find out that what Lenore, Leonor is, that he's alphabet community. I apologize. I'm going to butcher names, and I don't mean to. But, yeah, so he's part of the alphabet community, and Rhaenyra knows it. So they end up talking about a open relationship. You go do what you want. I'll go do what I want. And we'll just do the duty to our fathers in the realm, And it's very interesting on how they do that and everything. And then when we get back to King's Landing, there's a big giant feast. And of course Lannister's there, and he makes a comment about women not being ready for battle, and that's why men go to war. I was like, dude, it kills me. And even the king is like, oh, he's like, really? He's like, dude, Lannister, he's like, go away. And we see that Daemon shows up. And Daemon gets accused of killing his wife, which I thought was very interesting because, you know, as we saw, he pretty much did. He did. He took advantage of an opportunity and then finished the job. So, I thought that was extremely good. But then, when they do their dance, the betrothed dance, their first dance together, we end up seeing everybody else start to dance afterwards, but Leonor's lover figures out that Sir Cole is Rhaenyra's lover. And he says something about it. And this is all after the fact that the queen found out that he was the one who defiled Rhaenyra. So he's super on edge, and he's just like, he can't take it anymore because nobody's like putting him to the sword, because he broke his vows, and he freaks out. And this was really good. Like, for this wedding, it was really good. And it was the fact that we see the aftermath, and then he ends up getting stopped by the queen from killing himself. So this whole thing. And then on the meantime, Daemon is literally trying to talk to Rhaenyra about whether she really wants to get married or not. And she's like, well, then you take me, you make me your wife, and all this stuff, because you said it was a marriage. Marriage is a political thing. It's not for love and things like that. And she gets on his case, and he's just like, you know what, whatever, and he leaves. So he ends up just taking off, but then she gets caught in the middle of all this, Rhaenyra does, and they have to, like, one of the guys, I don't know what his name was, but he ends up having to bust through the crowd to pick her up and get her out of there. And we see the king is just starting to bleed out of his nose, and he's just kind of collapsing. So he does a shotgun wedding at the end. I was like, okay, that's cool, because he's like, this is going to happen, period, end of story, we're done with this, and he collapses. And that's kind of where we end the episode. Like, all the dynamics that have come together in this, I thought were actually really good for this episode. Because we see how all the decisions that have been happening now are starting to collide. Because we have Alicent, who knows the truth. She wears her green gown to show that she's a Hightower. And she basically just, the way she talks to Rhaenyra, she basically is like, I know. And I know where I stand, and I'm going to do what I got to do in order to progress further. So I think in this episode, Alicent was the standout. Again, Matt Smith, everybody else has done a great job so far. Matt Smith has been the standout for almost every single episode. But this time it was Alicent, because she's finally found, like, that backbone. She's finally starting to realize that people have lied to her, people have manipulated her too, just like the king found out in the last episode. So she's really going to have to do what she's got to do for her kids. Because, again, she has Otto Hightower telling her that her kids are going to be put to the sword, or they're going to have to rule. So, going forward, I can't wait to really see what happens. The sets were fantastic. The Hall of Nine on Driftwood was absolutely fantastic. I really can't wait to see what happens next. I would give this episode at least an 8 out of 10 easily. Again, I even go like 8.5. Yeah, 8.5 out of 10. I'll say that, because this episode was fantastic. If you guys like what I do, please hit the like button and subscribe. And also leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought about this episode. Take care for now, everyone.